Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Beyond Dope. I want to start off with the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, reading, I can live a well-rounded, comfortable life, a life I never dreamed existed. Recovery has opened new horizons to me and equipped me to explore them. Yeah, I agree with everything that says, except the last part. I guess it's still equipping me to explore them. You're so fresh sometimes. Sometimes I've been sober for a while now, and I still feel like I don't know what to do in my own skin sometimes. But just keep at it. That's all we could do. Okay, so I got a couple of questions through email. The first question being, how do you make new friends in addiction? And that comes from a woman who's 6 months sober. Been living in a sober living house for about a month now, and I guess all of her friends use hard drugs. That's pretty much the deal. That's who we were all hanging out with before we went into rehab, and that's who we're afraid to hang out with once we get out. So my experience was in rehab. I made a lot of friends, because we were still in that rehab bubble. So even if we went out to work and came back, we still had this safe zone, and we all became friends, and we all got each other's number, and that could be awesome, with those few friends that survive, but that could also be really, really terrible. And it's just like anything else, unfortunately. You're putting a bunch of addicts in the same place. You guys are all getting each other's numbers, and you guys are all trying to keep in touch, and misery loves company. So when you start to use, you start asking them, hey, are you really sober? And stuff like that. And some people end up using together. Other people keep each other strong. And, you got to be choosy. Look for the signs. We know what to look for. And at the end of the day, you have to want it. You guys know that. I was friends with people who, got out and thought that drinking was okay, and just using on certain days were okay. And, my first rehab, I didn't cut those people out. And my second rehab, I did. You just have to be smart. You have to listen to that smart voice in your head. And we know what's right. And most of the time we just want to do what's wrong. And we want to have somebody else to justify it for us. We want to have somebody else doing it with us and tell us that it's okay. But, we know it's not. So how do you go about making new friends? As you get out there and in the world, you start to work, you start to go to meetings, you'll find like-minded individuals, you'll find sponsors, you'll go get coffee and hang out and talk, you'll meet, you'll make friends with people at work, you'll become closer than ever with family. And family doesn't have to be blood relatives. Family is whoever you want in your little circle. I don't have many people in my little circle, but the ones that I do have are, I could talk to them and ask them for anything. Okay, so my next question comes from a friend. How much did NA help in your recovery? And my response to that is NA saved my life. NA provided a structure, especially in the beginning. Just going to those meetings, every day helped me get back on track. Now, is there going to be parts of it that you maybe don't agree with or don't like? Yes, there's parts of everything that you don't like or maybe don't agree with. For me, one of the things was they were very judgmental towards some people. Like, there was people that were going to those meetings that maybe took Suboxone or methadone or things of that nature, and when you speak out about stuff like that, they look at you like you are not sober. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, there's a million different paths to sobriety. It's not this assembly line thing that fits everyone. You have to find what works for you and work it. And I think as long as the goal is to eventually be on, be 100% drug free, then that's fantastic. But I mean, I know people who have been on methadone for 10 years and they live great, happy, productive lives. I know people that have been on it for 4 years, that just started to wean down, that are living great lives. I know people that have been on Suboxone for years. It's really all in your, in what you want to do. My experience is, I never had really any success with Suboxone. I never liked how it made me feel, but you might be different, and it's I think it's important to have like a no judgment zone in those rooms. I mean, come on, man. We get up there and we tell these terrible stories, and we get no judgment from each other. But the minute that somebody finds out that you're on Suboxone, it's like grab the grab the pitchforks and torches. We're gonna get them. So in the beginning, it provided great structure. It provided the steps, just fantastic structure, not just in what you do in recovery, but in my life. Going to those meetings every day really helped me. Even the coffee breaks after, talking with certain people, really gets you thinking, and just human contact. Not being cooped up all the time alone with nothing to do, thinking about what your friends maybe are doing, or thinking about getting high. So yeah, no, for me, NA absolutely saved my life. That being said, towards I don't know, it was like, for me, it was like the 2 year mark. I started just having like group chats and little meetings with a select few people rather than go to meetings all the time. I would still go like once or twice a week, and that turned into once or twice a month. And I mean, I still go sometimes. But for me, I'd rather get together with a couple of, close, like-minded friends and just have a discussion group and just kind of, talk about what's going on with us and take it from there. But, I mean, that's like what they say. A meeting can be held anywhere and it only takes two people. But that's your prerogative, whatever you want to do, whatever you feel comfortable with doing, and whatever works for you. Like I said, this is not you know, everything doesn't work for everyone. You got to find what works for you and run with it. All right, now I'm going to kind of hop back into my story a little bit. My friends and I really bonded through the tragedy of my brother. A lot of my friends were already really close, obviously, before this happened, but this made us like brothers. My friend Brad and I, especially. We started having parties on the weekends, but it was strange. I think the tragedy taught us that we were supposed to get drunk and be sad, which, that's not fun. So it was kind of a learning experience, and being around other people and actually getting drunk and having fun like we used to. It took a while to get out of that, funk. I knew a few people who sold pot. I also knew a few older people who would buy booze for us when we wanted them to. I started out charging double, so I had people that would call me and be like, "Hey, I need a couple cases of beer and $50 worth of pot." So I would call my guys, arrange them to give me 2 cases and say I need $20 worth of pot. And it started from there, where I was just kind of charging more and, making a few bucks on the side. But I had some money saved from working at Mark's, and one of the customer service guys there could get ounces of shake for really cheap. It was, I believe it was $40 an ounce. Everyone else would sell a blunt back then for $10 and weigh it up to 1.4 or 1.5 grams. So I figured they're probably going to break it down anyway to smoke it. Why not sell them shake? Who wouldn't want to buy that, for cheap? And I could afford to weigh them up to, say, 1.8 or 2 grams because I was getting them for so cheap. So that's how Brad and I started selling pot. We would get an ounce and bag it up, 14 $10 bags at 2 grams each. Brad would literally use a spoon to bag them. Calling it shake doesn't do it justice. It was like green sand with seeds in it. But every 14 we sold, we made $100, and that was good money to us. It really started off just as a way we could maybe smoke for free, though, and it grew from there, and it grew pretty quick. I got back in touch with a friend I knew in 8th grade. Well, he was more like a friend of a friend. We would call each other while playing Resident Evil back in the day and walk each other through some of the harder parts in the game because those games were hard back in the day. He started selling weed, and he had a really good connection, like really good. So I started out buying quarter pounds off of him for, 325, 350. And within a month or two, I was buying a pound or two a week. I knew a few dealers like myself. So, there would be times I bought, 5, maybe sometimes 7. I think once or twice I bought 10. And, just like everything else, the more you buy, the lower the price. I sold to a lot of people at school, but also to a lot of my brother's friends, my friends' older siblings, their uncles, their family. I mean, it grew quick. It was good, bud, and I mean, I'd come right to your house, and I was just a normal kid, So everybody, I was very likable. Let's put it that way. A lot of people in school always wanted to trade pills for pot. That's kind of how I got into the pills thing. Some were prescribed Adderall, while others just raided whatever was in their parents' nightstand and asked if it was worth anything. Back then, I really didn't know much about pills, really, except Adderall, which to me was like the ultimate party drug. You could take one, drink all night, and fuck like a rock star. From about 10th grade on, I always had Adderall. I had deals worked out in advance with people who had prescriptions. I'd buy them for $1 each in most cases. Honestly, in most cases, I would just trade them for pot. But it worked out to be about $1 each, but that was in pot, so it was a lot cheaper for me. But basically, I'd buy them for about $1 each, and in most cases, I'd sell them for $4 or $5 each. So I mean, it was very profitable. But I always kept like a stash to the side for myself, which speaks volumes when you could get four times what you paid for something, but you're keeping so much for yourself. I mean, that speaks to a problem early on. But honestly, I couldn't buy enough of them. I mean, I could always sell pretty much whatever I had. Valium and Somas were pretty big back then too. They were kind of like muscle relaxers. Somas were. Valium was kind of for anxiety, but it really puts you out too. For those who don't know what that is, it wasn't until 11th grade that I started to learn more about opiates, Percocets, Vicodin, stuff like that. I had been prescribed perks once or twice for my shoulder injury in football. Once in 8th grade, and then again, I think it was 10th grade. They were prescribed much, I mean, it was a regular thing back then. They were prescribed so much more regularly than they are now. It was really easy to get a prescription of them. So, I mean, they were everywhere and they were relatively cheap. From about, I want to say 2004. I mean, well, that's when I got started. So it was probably way before then. But for me, from 2004 to about 2008, you could find them for about $2 to $3 each. Uh, this was another huge problem, I think, for like my whole generation. Um, they were really cheap and they were everywhere. And I think this was how opiates got their hooks in a lot of us. Because if they were, if we were spending the kind of money we were spending at the end of our addiction at the beginning, we never would have got involved with it, right? So it speaks to the progression of this thing. Back then I believed, I would always have all my pot customers. Where are they going to go, right? It blew up so fast, I figured I could get more if any of them ever stopped coming through. I mean, there were days when I would make $1,500 after sleeping till noon and driving around for 2 hours. It was the dream job. You could pretty much do whatever you wanted and you had the money to do it. The average day was about $200, I'd say, just an average day. I was young and stupid, and I spent my money like I was young and stupid. Okay, so let's break the story there really fast, just to talk about addictive personalities. My personality, I have. I mean, you don't know it at the time. You think, oh no, I could stop whenever. I could pump the brakes, but man, I have an extremely addictive personality. When I was 15, 14 years old, I was playing $100 games of poker regularly. It wasn't unusual to lose $1,000 gambling in a day or win it. From say ninth grade on, I had this notebook I would carry around with me during the NFL season. All my friends and friends of friends would call in bets on the NFL games to me. And, I would tell them that there was an actual bookie that I called these bets into. I think most of them or some of them knew that I didn't call them in, but sometimes it comes in handy to, have this imaginary guy who wants his money, right? I did actually have someone that I could call the bets into when I wanted, but I've rarely used them, especially back then. But I mean, again, my personality, I was in 11th grade after seeing how much the over-under table made at St. Monica's Carnival. I made one. Like, I went to Packatans, and for those of you who don't know what Packatans is, it's like this craft store. It's kind of like Michael's. It's like like an arts and crafts store in the Cleveland area. or it used to be, I should say. And so I went there and I went to Home Depot and I made one. I bought the felt, I bought the letters to actually spell out and glue on over, under, and 7. And I bought wood and actually made a box. I would take that table everywhere. And I wasn't even driving back then. So my friends would pick me up and here's this guy in the driveway ready to go to this party with this huge over under table and, a case of natural light. That's, that was, who I was back then. I would deal no limit blackjack. I knew the house would always win. So I tried my damnedest to be the house whenever I could, with blackjack, with over under, whatever it was, I tried to make money off of it. You're listening to Beyond Dope. New episodes available every Friday. To email us with your questions or comments, please reach out to us at beyonddopepodcast@gmail.com. A buddy of mine, we were talking the other day, and he said, why do we always have the need to go back and revisit these terrible times? And obviously, we can all dwell on things a little too much, which is, never good, right? The shame and guilt of some of the stuff that we did in active addiction it will tear you apart. It'll eat you up for the rest of your life thinking about it. I am to the point where with most of it, there's still some things that I have to work on, but with most of it, I use it as a reminder, especially when I'm having a tough day. For me, it's a reminder of what I could personally survive. A reminder that people can change, and thank God for that. But all the guilt that comes from these things, it could be really hard to be proud of yourself for doing this. I remember when I first started getting sober, somebody said to me, you should be so proud of yourself. And I literally said out loud, what I should be proud for being normal. And it sparked this whole debate in the group. And I'm so glad I said that because, they're like, well, you're not normal. You have a problem and you're working through it. And when you think about that from just the most basic way, you have a problem and you're fixing it. It was so much bigger than that. This problem eats your life. It changes who you are, and you should be proud because you made it out. You're maybe not made it out, but you're working to change yourself. You're working to be a better person today than you were yesterday, and that's the main thing. Am I a better person today than I was yesterday? I hope so, but I know I'm a better person today than I was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So we're moving in the right direction, right? And I don't care if you have 1, 3, 6 months or years. You should be proud. It's not easy. It's not easy, and there's so many people out there with so many different problems that they don't work on, and because they don't think they have to change. And we would all just be so much better off if we all worked on ourselves just a little bit and we're a little more mindful of, what could I do in this situation to make this a better situation? What could I do to help this? But we're just very selfish people. So any change that you could make, I mean, you should be very proud of. I'm gonna leave you guys with that for today. Till next time, keep putting one foot in front of the other, one day at a time. Thanks, guys.